A few years ago, my wife and I were sitting in our apartment after a successful argument. You know the kind where you both say everything you've been holding in over the past few days, weeks, maybe even months, and now you're just sitting there looking at each other like, wow, this would have been so much easier if we had addressed this all earlier. And like a genius, I did what any sane person would do after reaching peace and reconnection with your partner. I reopened the entire conversation. Yeah, you're laughing. She wasn't. But in many ways, it speaks to who I am. I tend to see conflict and points of tension as an opportunity to explore and understand and learn more about the other person and myself. So I asked her, do you feel comfortable bringing up issues to me? And she said yes. So I followed that with, so why don't you? And from her perspective, she had seen how small discussions escalated into larger arguments in other relationships, so she approached it carefully. She also didn't want to dwell on minor issues when there were more important things to focus on and be appreciative of. And I didn't realize it at the time, but years later, I saw the same dynamic play out in a completely different setting. An employee of mine hesitated to disagree with me in a meeting, not out of fear of my reaction, but out of respect for authority and seeing open disagreement with leadership as disrespectful. Two different people, two different settings. But in both cases, it was their life experiences, their roles, their identities that shaped how they saw conflict. And it was not the same as me. So who's right? What is true? This showed me something important, that conflict is not just about disagreement. It's about our perception of the truth. So if our identity shapes our truth, how can we use this insight to navigate conflict with more clarity and embrace its true power? Connection. Through my research on athletic identity, which is the extent to which an individual connects with their role as an athlete, I saw how deeply identity shapes how we interact with challenges, even outside of sports. And the more I explored, the more I realized that this is not just true of athletes. It's true for everyone. Like athletes, many of us go into conflict with one goal and one goal in mind: winning. We focus on proving our point, defending our position, outlasting the other person by any means. But by doing this, we are robbing ourselves of three deeper truths that conflict can present to us. And I don't mean the common idea that conflict consists of your truth, their truth, and what happened, as if we could just uncover the facts and we'll bring ourselves closer to resolution. What I'm referring to is a way to stop seeing conflict as something that pulls us apart and start using it as a tool to bring us closer together. And that's where the three hidden truths of conflict come in. Starting with truth number one, facing yourself. We tend to not just react to what is said to us, we react to what's being challenged in us. Take an athlete whose identity is strongly tied to their performances. When they have multiple bad games, or a coach tells them, hey, you need to step it up, they don't just hear critical feedback. They hear, I am not good enough. Now, that might sound a little dramatic, but haven't some of us felt the same? If you take pride in your work, how does it feel when a supervisor or a teacher gives you really critical feedback? Or worse, it comes from someone that you believe you're more competent than. Suddenly, that simple, here's how you can improve, sounds a lot like you're not as good as you thought you were, huh? So the next time you're in conflict, face yourself and ask, am I defending the facts, or am I defending part of who I am? Truth number two is about a 180-degree shift. This shift is not just about understanding another perspective or another person. It's about realizing that one truth may complete your truth and add to your life. Athletes often experience this when transitioning from being an athlete to a former athlete. If their identity stays anchored into their value as a player, they can miss out on who they could become after the game. But if they can just take a step back and shift their perspective, they can realize that their role is not ending. It's evolving. They still have value, although maybe not as a player, but maybe as a mentor or a leader in their larger community, their truth can block them from seeing who they can become. This is actually a pretty common experience for many parents. Think about it. You're the ones that are teaching and guiding and shaping your child's understanding of the world. And then one day, they come back from university. Maybe the University of Rhode Island or something. And they start questioning you. They start sharing new ideas. They maybe even start correcting you. And what we may not realize is that your resistance isn't about rejecting new information, it's about the discomfort of stepping into a new chapter in your life. But once again, if you can just shift your perspective, you may realize that this moment of tension isn't about losing a point of connection with your child. It's about creating a new one. So in moments of discomfort and transition, be open to the truth that can shift you closer to who you can become. Last but not least is truth number 3, the truth that connects us all. In these moments, when we're thinking of conflicts, we tend to think of it as just one truth versus another. But in all reality, there's an underlying truth that is significantly more important. Athletes often experience this when they're struggling with physical pain or ignoring mental health warning signs, convinced that resting means letting their team, their coach, their families, or even themselves down. But in the right environment, they can realize that rest does not mean giving up. And it's actually what will allow them to recover and perform at their best when all those that need them truly need them. And just like an athlete refusing to rest, I did the same thing in that successful argument years ago with my wife. At the time, I thought the best way to connect was to push forward, was to ask questions, was to win against any future conflict that could arise. What I thought was the best way to ensure connection was getting in the way of realizing the underlying truth. We were already connected. And that's what conflict often reveals, not just where we differ, but where we are already aligned. So the next time you're in conflict, see it as an opportunity to reflect, to grow, to connect. Because the opposite of conflict is not peace. It's disconnection. It's isolation. So lean into conflict, and don't just fight for your truth. Fight for the truth that connects us all. Thank you.